What if I told you Tombstone was never meant to survive? A jealous rival tried to destroy it, the studio completely lost control, and the leading man had to secretly step in as director just to keep it alive. Some scenes were so dangerous the cast called it boot camp with bullets. These truths stayed buried for decades, until the cast finally spoke out. Now, let's uncover 15 weird secrets the studio never wanted you to know. Number 1. Kurt Russell secretly directed the whole damn movie. You're not gonna believe this. The man who actually directed Tombstone wasn't the guy listed in the credits. It was Kurt freaking Russell. Yeah, Wyatt Earp himself. The set was falling apart. Literally. The script kept changing every day. The original director got fired, and everyone was just standing around in the Arizona heat waiting for orders that never came. It was chaos. That's when Russell quietly took over. He met with producers behind closed doors, rewrote the daily call sheets, cut scenes that didn't work, and basically rebuilt the movie from scratch. George P. Cosmatos, the man officially credited as director, was mostly there to keep the studio calm while Russell ran the show in secret. Even Val Kilmer later admitted it, saying, "Kurt saved Tombstone." However, Russell never said a word. He didn't fight for the credit. He just wanted the movie to survive. He knew if he failed, Tombstone would have been another forgotten Western that collapsed mid-shoot. Instead, it became a legend. Number 2. Kevin Costner tried to kill Tombstone before it was born. Now this one's straight-up Hollywood warfare. While Tombstone was fighting to stay alive, Kevin Costner was making his own Wyatt Earp movie, and he didn't want any competition. So what did he do? According to crew insiders and producers, Costner used his studio muscle to sabotage Tombstone. He allegedly called distributors, told them not to touch it, not to screen it, not to fund it. He wanted his version to be the only one that existed. It's wild, right? The same guy who played America's good guy in Field of Dreams and Dances with Wolves was pulling strings to bury another Western. While Russell and his crew were sweating under the desert sun, Costner was quietly blocking them from theaters. And it almost worked. Studios backed off, the budget shrank, and the project nearly died in pre-production. But here's the twist. Karma came faster than a gunshot. Costner's big, glossy Wyatt Earp came out a year later and totally bombed. Critics called it bloated and boring. Meanwhile, Tombstone, the underdog he tried to kill, blew up into a cult classic. Number 3. The set was pure hell. Heat, sickness, and survival. You ever wonder why everyone in Tombstone looks so damn miserable? Because they actually were. Filming that movie was hell. We're talking triple-digit Arizona heat, actors wrapped in heavy wool suits, and 12-hour shooting days that started before sunrise. Sam Elliott said it best. It was boot camp with cameras. People were fainting, puking, and passing out between takes. Michael Biehn's black costume was so hot he nearly collapsed mid-scene. Val Kilmer was pretending to die of tuberculosis while actually dehydrated and burning up inside those layers. Some crew members quit on the spot. So the exhaustion you see in their eyes, the grim faces, the sweat dripping down, that wasn't acting. It was survival. That's why Tombstone feels so real. Number 4. Val Kilmer didn't just play Doc Holliday. He became him. You think Val Kilmer acted like Doc Holliday? Nah, he was Doc Holliday. The man disappeared so deep into that character, it scared people. He studied tuberculosis like a medical student, reading 19th century journals to learn how a dying man would breathe, speak, and even blink. Then he started living it. He'd show up to set pale, sweaty, slouched like someone half alive, and he stayed that way all day. Cast members said it was eerie. You'd look over and see him in the corner, glassy-eyed, whispering lines under his breath like he was talking to ghosts. He refused to snap out of it when filming ended. The line between Val and Doc just blurred until there was nothing left. People always say Kilmer stole the movie. Number. He haunted it. He carried that performance like a fever. Number 5. The duel that nearly killed Michael Biehn. That final showdown between Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo, it wasn't just intense, it was real danger. Michael Biehn wasn't pretending to be dizzy or nervous. He was dehydrated, sunburned, and so weak he could barely stand. The Arizona heat was brutal. 110 degrees, full costume, no shade. He'd been shooting for days in black wool, his boots melting into the dirt. When cameras rolled, he was seconds from collapsing. You can literally see it in his eyes, that hazy, glassy look right before a person blacks out. But he stayed in character. He let the weakness become the scene. They kept it in the final cut because it was too powerful to reshoot. That duel became one of the greatest Western standoffs ever filmed. Number 6. Sam Elliott almost walked off the set for good. Imagine Tombstone without Sam Elliott's calm, gravel-voiced Virgil Earp. It almost happened. Halfway through filming, Elliott was ready to quit. The script kept changing. His character's big moral moments were cut, and Virgil, the soul of the Earp brothers, was turning into a background extra. He felt betrayed. He called the producers and told them straight up, "I don't think I can stand behind this version anymore." The production was already hanging by a thread, and losing Elliott would have been the nail in the coffin. That's when Kurt Russell stepped in. He met Sam in private, sat down with him, and went through the script line by line. They fought for the scenes that mattered. Elliott stayed, and thank God he did. His quiet authority became the glue that held the whole movie together, but knowing how close he came to walking away makes every scene hit harder. Number 7. Kurt Russell cut his own lines, so Val Kilmer could shine. You ever hear of a lead actor cutting his own dialogue to make someone else look better? That's exactly what Kurt Russell did. While most stars fight for every second of screen time, Russell did the opposite. He gave it away. When he saw Val Kilmer becoming something extraordinary as Doc Holliday, he made a decision. The movie belongs to him. So he went into the editing room, sat with the crew, and started slashing his own lines. Entire scenes of Wyatt Earp were trimmed or cut altogether. He didn't care about ego, he cared about the story. He just knew that every time Kilmer appeared, the film came alive. The sweat, the drawl, the danger. Doc was magnetic. Russell could have tried to outshine him, but instead he leaned back and let Kilmer burn. And it changed everything. Without that humility, the film wouldn't have had that balance. Wyatt's quiet restraint next to Doc's chaos. It's the reason the friendship feels real, the reason Tombstone hits like a punch instead of just another gunfight flick. Number 8. The original ending was so dark they had to rewrite it. The Tombstone you know, the bittersweet goodbye, the snowy epilogue, the final dance with Josephine, almost didn't exist. The original ending was cold, literally just Wyatt Earp walking off into the desert, alone. Test audiences hated it. They didn't cry. They stared in shock. The studio panicked. They called everyone back for late rewrites and reshoots. Suddenly, the ending became something else. Wyatt visiting Doc on his deathbed, their final words soft instead of hard, and that hopeful ride into the snow. It cost money they didn't have, but it saved the movie's soul. Because that rewrite turned Tombstone from tragedy into myth, from a story about revenge into one about redemption. Number 9. The OK Corral gunfight. Took 4 days and nearly broke everyone. That famous shootout, the one that feels like pure adrenaline from start to finish? Yeah, that scene almost destroyed the cast and crew. It took 4 brutal days to film. Each shot had to be perfectly timed, Gunfire, squibs, dust explosions, camera angles. By day 2, everyone was coughing up dirt. By day 3, the actors were running on fumes. By day 4, people weren't even watching the monitors anymore. They were just covering their ears. Val Kilmer's fever was real. Sam Elliott's arms were trembling from exhaustion. Kurt Russell kept pushing through, bloodshot eyes and all, because they had to get it right. No CGI, no shortcuts, just real chaos, choreographed to look effortless. When it was over, the crew said it felt like surviving a war, but that's what makes that scene legendary. Number 10. Willem Dafoe was almost Doc Holliday, and it could have changed everything. Picture this for a second. Instead of Val Kilmer whispering, "I'm your Huckleberry," it's Willem Dafoe. Yeah, that Willem Dafoe, the guy with the wild eyes from Platoon and The Last Temptation of Christ. For a brief, strange moment, that was almost reality. Before Kilmer came on board, Dafoe was the studio's top consideration. He had the voice, the danger, and that unpredictable energy that could flip from charming to terrifying in a blink. Everyone agreed he could make Doc Holliday fascinating. But then came the problem. Controversy. After The Last Temptation of Christ, some studio execs were terrified of putting Dafoe in another major movie. They thought his presence would attract the wrong kind of headlines. The church backlash from that film had been so intense, they didn't want to risk the same storm hitting a Western. So they passed. The role slipped through his fingers, and Val Kilmer stepped in. But think about it. If Dafoe had played Doc, Tombstone might have been darker, meaner, maybe even weirder. Kilmer brought a dying man's elegance, a poet's sadness. Dafoe would have brought fire and madness. Two completely different movies. Number 11, the real town of Tombstone tried to shut the movie down. Now this is pure irony. The town that built its fame on gunfights, outlaws, and chaos didn't want Tombstone, the movie, anywhere near them. When word spread that Hollywood was coming to recreate the legend, the actual residents of Tombstone, Arizona, were furious. They said the script was a joke. Local historians called it a circus, accusing it of twisting facts just to sell tickets. Museum curators complained that the movie ignored the real history, that it made Wyatt Earp look like a saint and turned their town into a playground for explosions. Some even wrote formal letters demanding production stop immediately. For a minute, things got ugly. City officials debated blocking access to real landmarks. Certain shots had to be relocated because locals literally refused to cooperate. But here's the twist. The movie that Arizona didn't want became the reason most of the world even knows Tombstone exists. After it premiered, tourism exploded, hotels filled, museums suddenly had lines out the door. The movie they tried to kill ended up saving their history. Number 12, the script nobody wanted became the Western everyone needed. Before Tombstone became iconic, it was the town pariah of Hollywood. Kevin Jarrah, the guy who wrote it, believed he had something special. His script was bold, poetic, packed with history and dripping with character. But when he sent it out, it got rejected. Everywhere. Studios said Westerns were dead. Too long, they said. Too serious. Too many characters. One executive even told him it read like a history book, not a movie. For a while it looked like Tombstone would die before a single camera rolled. But Jarrah didn't quit. He kept rewriting, pitching, begging. Then one day, a small independent financier took a chance. They shot it on tighter money, shorter time, and pure adrenaline. When the film hit theaters, it exploded. Critics who'd ignored it now called it one of the best modern westerns. The same studios that rejected it came crawling back, begging for distribution rights. Jarrah didn't just write a movie, he resurrected a genre. Number 13, the editing room was a war zone nobody talks about. You'd think the nightmare ended when they wrapped filming, right? Wrong. When Tombstone hit post-production, it was pure chaos. The footage was a mess. Scenes shot by two different directors, tone all over the place, half the story missing. One editor described it perfectly. We weren't cutting a movie. We were performing surgery. Hours of film had to be rearranged, rewritten, or straight up deleted just to make sense. Some scenes had completely different energy. They had to stitch it together like a Frankenstein Western, hoping it would somehow breathe. Russell, who was basically already running the show, jumped in again. He sat with the editors, going through every frame, fighting to keep the movie alive. It wasn't about making it perfect. It was about making it work. They spent sleepless nights trying different cuts, until finally, something clicked. The story started to pulse. Doc and Wyatt's friendship found its rhythm. The tension finally made sense. When they finished, it wasn't the movie they planned. It was something raw, sharper, and weirdly beautiful. A Western stitched together from exhaustion and instinct. Number 14. The costumes looked legendary but felt like torture. The cast looked incredible. Those crisp suits, perfect hats, polished boots. But behind all that swagger? Misery. The wardrobe team went full 1880s authenticity, which meant heavy wool coats, stiff collars, and layers upon layers under the Arizona sun. Val Kilmer joked later that he didn't have to act sick. The clothes did it for him. Imagine wearing 3 shirts, a vest, a jacket, and a scarf when it's 110 degrees. Actors were sweating through their costumes, fainting mid-scene, and begging for shade. Some had to change outfits 3 or 4 times a day just to stay conscious. And here's the wild part. The misery made the movie better. That's why Tombstone feels so gritty, because everyone was actually suffering. Number 15. Doc Holliday's real last words were stranger than fiction. Here's where history outdoes Hollywood. In the movie, Doc Holliday dies quietly. Poetic, sad, but peaceful. In real life, his death was so bizarre it's almost funny. Literally. After years of gambling, drinking, and coughing up blood, Doc ended up in a hotel room in Colorado, too weak to stand. A man who'd survived countless gunfights, barroom brawls, and deadly diseases was finally losing to time. He looked down at his bare feet, smiled faintly, and whispered, "This is funny." Then he died. See, in the Old West, dying with your boots on meant going out in a blaze of glory, shot, stabbed, something dramatic. Doc, of all people, dying quietly like that, it was the ultimate punchline. And now you know the truth behind the chaos, the danger, and the legend that almost never made it to the screen. Which of these Tombstone secrets shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time for more untold stories from Hollywood's wild side.